So when I heard about WSP, I was working in the CCC in Monterey Bay at the Monterey Bay Center. Heard about it through some of the staff at the center who thought that it could potentially be a good fit for me. I had recently graduated from college and I kind of had this vague idea that I wanted to do conservation biology. And that was kind of why I had joined the Seas, but I didn't really know what specifically I wanted to do within that field or what that would actually mean or really how to go about getting that experience. And so when I heard about WSP, it seemed like a really good opportunity to try out fisheries biology, see if that was something I would be interested in, to meet and work with people in the field and get that hands-on experience doing data collection and biological monitoring. And so it just seemed like a logical next step for me.
So I first heard about WSP when I was serving at the Fortuna Center. And it seemed like an interesting opportunity. I was committed at the time to serving as a traditional Corps member for 2 years and then returning to college to finish my bachelor's degree. So I didn't apply immediately, but after, I believe it was about a year and a half after I had finished my service with the California Conservation Corps, I decided it was time. I felt like WSP could really provide me an opportunity to do something that was different. I studied forestry, so working in fisheries would be something that was sort of out of my wheelhouse. And I'm just very interested in doing things that are different. I like hopping around and trying new experiences, and WSP certainly provided a lot of new experiences that were not something that I could have received from service as a traditional Corps member.
I kind of realized or decided ultimately I wanted to work in the conservation field or outdoors at the very least. Once I found the Watershed Stewards program, I knew that this would be my way into the industry and to kind of get where I wanted to be long term. So yeah, I did my first year with the CCC. I knew that would be a great way to get into WSP. So here I am just 2 years later and have completed my associate's degree now while I was in San Diego. And that's helped me get this far as well. So
I had just recently graduated from college and I was working for a citrus research lab, and I knew I wanted to get into the environmental field, but my background, I was focusing on going into the medical field. So I really didn't have much background, and I was Googling and I ran into WSP program and I was like, I don't know if I'll get in, but I applied and I thought it would be a great fit for me and get my foot into the industry, and I got in, and the rest is history.
So I was working at the CCC's Fortuna Center and I met Sia, a project director. Is that her title? We were sitting next to each other during a first aid course, and she just began talking to me, and we were talking about my background, and she felt like I was a good fit for WSP, so she asked if I wanted to apply, and I did. And then the more I spent time at the Seas in Fortuna, I realized that like WSP was focusing more in like the science aspect of it, not just only doing like the manual labor that the Seas does. And it was more about like education in a sense than the Seas. So I definitely felt like it was a better fit. And yeah, I'm really glad I sat next to Sia that day. You have to be like really educated to like join. Like you have to for sure have a bachelor's. You have to maybe be like an idea of like smarter. And like that kind of perception of like maybe it's like a little bit too like a little bit more elite than the Seas program. And maybe like I felt like it wasn't as attainable for everybody. But yeah, that was kind of mostly the perceptions that people had of it when we were in the Seas.
But I did know others who felt like they shouldn't really put in the time to apply because they felt unqualified due to not having any college experience, and even some who had college experience believing that they needed a full college degree to be able to even have a chance. And it also seemed like some people felt intimidated by other WSP Corps members that we would occasionally interact with at Fortuna. Also, there were some perceptions that people needed to have a background in data entry or have a scientific background. And there were a lot of people at a lot of my fellow traditional Corps members who didn't really have that background. And so that was a really big roadblock to feeling that they could even apply.
Transfers over. So any C's member that thinks like, oh, it's too elite, or like these people are going to put me down, that's not it at all. Like, I did a lot of hard work in WSP, especially my first term. Like, comparable to the C's, like I would get home and I would debate either do I eat or sleep, and usually sleep would win. And then I'd get up and eat. And I felt the same thing in the C's. Like, it was hard. Like, it was, hard work. Like, Jody told me when I was switching, she was like, it's going to be humbling work. And I'm like, for sure. But WSP, my first term especially, like really grounded me for that and prepared me for that hard work in the C's. So just kind of if you have those preconceived notions, kind of like get rid of that, because WSP, you're going to work just as hard, and they're there with that like crew and like mentality that we're all there for each other.
Talking with the project sponsors who are super knowledgeable in what it was we were doing and why we were there for that day or week. And so just staying curious about all of it, no matter what the project was, there always ended up being some sort of conservation like baseline to it. And so you can take all of those kinds of lessons and experiences and really apply them to any kind of environmental work, whether you're counting fish or repairing wetland habitats or doing ecology work somewhere. All of it's connected still, so you kind of got to keep that frame mindset, and yeah, stay curious, ask questions. So
it really helped me. Feel like I had a really strong work ethic because of working in the C's, and you learn, the miserable conditions and more. Those are definitely there in WSP too when you're doing field work. And because when you're working as a traditional Corps member, you're always working with all different kinds of people, and the projects are constantly changing. I felt like that made me really adaptable and able to work with people from different agencies when I was a WSP Corps member and pick up protocols easily because I was used to kind of those constant changes.
And yeah, I think it's like people that are inspired by the work that the C's is doing, and you enjoy it and you want to continue in that without having too many barriers of like having to get a BA right away. You have that scholarship money that you got from the C's, and you will be getting some from WSP as well through AmeriCorps. And that gives you the ability to really hone into something that you want to study. And you could go into college maybe having more of an experience, and it also gives you the ability to like apply for internships while you're in school. Yeah, so I think if you're inspired by the work that you're currently doing, definitely apply for WSP, because it's definitely a nice like next step to take.
So for those that are trying to get in the environmental field, or like even want to get a foot in the door to see if they like it, AmeriCorps gives you scholarships. So if you're thinking of going to college, like thinking of that goal, but you're like, how do I get there financially? Like, this helps you a little bit. Like, it at least nudges you forward. You have a little bit of a foundation. So it's kind of, I urge all those that like, you don't know where you're going, and it's going to be, at times it's harder because you are first gen. I am first gen in my family to go to college, and like, if you're kind of in this like place of like, I joined the Cs, now what? WSP is a great platform to, especially if you like, if you're trying to get an environmental field, you get all that work experience and then you get your college degree, like you're set. And so I really urged those people that don't think they can make it to that point, like you can. And there's this foundation, this platform, and the support group that you have when you join WSP.
I came into WSP and CCC knowing that I, wanted to work outside really was kind of the biggest factor. I've always had a knack for biology and have always been fascinated by the natural world as well. So that has kind of led me down this path. Being a non-traditional student, I knew that I kind of needed a different sort of avenue than a bachelor's degree and then the environmental industry. So it's it's doable.
I think that for me at WSP had a pretty direct impact in what I ended up doing with my career. When I joined WSP, I didn't really expect that I was going to stay in fisheries biology, but then after doing 2 years as a WSP Corps member, I had just completely fallen in love with the work and also with salmon, and decided that I wanted to stay in this field. I've spent this past year working at Point Reyes National Seashore with their koa and steelhead monitoring program, which was actually my placement site, my second year of WSP, and I worked as a technician there. And then I'm about to start another position up in Washington running a rotary screw trap, so doing juvenile salmonid monitoring. And I think that WSP really helped me both to realize that this is something that I am really passionate about, and to get that experience and meet those people and make the connections that made it possible for me to keep getting jobs. So it worked out really well for me.
I wanted to go in the environmental field, but I didn't know what to do. The 2 years I was in WSP really helped me network, really helped me ground myself, talk to a lot of people. And my first placements, I worked for half-time with a nonprofit, half-time with Fish and Wildlife. And so I had this unique experience that most people don't get, of seeing both sides. What is a nonprofit versus working for a CDFW? And just comparing that and being what do I want? Do I want this nonprofit world, or do I want more going into the government? So
I'm currently working in outreach and education with a small nonprofit in California. So it very directly helped me because we do a lot of outreach and education in WSP. After my term ended, I enrolled at a community college and received my certificate in early childhood education, which was inspired by my experiences in WSP. I did not know that I would enjoy working with children, working in classrooms prior to WSP. And that was the part that I was most dreading about my WSP service before I actually started doing it. And I realized how much I really, really loved it, and I wanted to learn more about it. And so I enrolled in early childhood education, and I am now doing education and outreach, and it is really, really enjoyable.